Third try. Welcome to the show. I'm so excited to have you. And today we are going to talk about your book, At the Turning of Years. I will show this to the audience. This is your book. I spent 1 week with your book, reading all the pages. Yeah, I had a lot of profound insight. And well, let's just jump into it. Who are you?
Well, I'm an astrologer from Slovenia. I was born here. I also live here, and I met astrology here. It was back in 2002 when I visited quite well-known astrologer here in Slovenia, and I was just shocked at his ability to predict some very specific things from my chart, and I was intrigued by it at that very moment, just like, wow. And the fascinating thing was that the reading only lasted for about 15 or 20 minutes. You know, it was not this long 1 hour reading with lots of, you know, maybe even irrelevant information, but it was just like very specific and to the point, and very relevant for me at the time. It really gave me some useful guidance. And then later, in 2007, I think, I got my first Vedic astrology reading, which I also found very interesting. But then in 2011, I started with Western astrology. I decided I wanted to know more about astrology, and I read various books and began to study by myself on my own. And then later, I just wanted to know more about Vedic astrology again, and studied under the guidance of Ernst Wilhelm. And from him, I actually got to know that there is that the old text of Hellenistic astrology are being studied and translated. And I wanted to know more about that because I've heard that it's very similar to Vedic astrology. And when I began to dive deeper into it, I was completely hooked because I liked how it had a very rational explanation for most doctrines, you know, most concepts, and that was like, this is something I like, you know. I don't feel, I don't feel very. It doesn't feel very good to me if I use some things that we don't have an explanation for, you know, because I believe that when you really understand the rationale behind something, then you can use it effectively. Otherwise, you know, you're doing things on faith, and there's too much open for speculation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and in your book, it comes really clearly through that you are examining the technique behind. So you did some own research in your book, and you explain what you did. You see the charts and you found the patterns. So, but we will talk about the book later. What I'm interested in is also to know, you told us that you had been studying some form of Vedic astrology and now Hellenistic astrology. Is there a particular school you belong to, or do you combine everything?
Yeah, well, my foundation is set in Hellenistic tradition. This is where I take all the important primary concepts. And I believe that if we know, if we are well grounded in these concepts, then we can also develop further. We can build our own systems out of that. Because when something is compliant with the basic principle, that it's okay, then it's true, it can be done, it can be used. And this is something I also did in my book, in the last chapter on additional Time Lords, when I developed a Time Lord system which is based on these primal principles.
Yeah, exactly. That was one thing I think is a speciality in your book, that you found something new, a new technique based on the doctrines of Hellenistic astrology, of traditional astrology. So you actually gave a good example of sticking with the tradition, but as we talked in our little talk before the recording, to give space to intuition and be open to find new patterns and find the mechanics behind. So that's nice to see, to have this example, how it can work for our times, to see something new and give space to it.
Yes, even the astrologers of antiquity, they were also innovators. We usually we think, oh, well, this was a tradition, this was very fixed and uniform. It's not like that.
The idea of going back to Eden, to the beginning, to where everything was only bliss and worked out perfectly. We have
It's
this
kind of a little bit romantic thinking, you know.
I think we all have this.
I used to think like that also. I was searching for this, you know, original astrology, but soon I found out that, well, even the old texts differ from one another, and the astrologers had different approaches. But again, they understood the basic principles, so they could develop their own approach, which was more in line with their thinking and, you know, their intuition and so on.
Let's talk about your book. So this book is called At the Turning of Years, a book on solar forecasting. So now someone could ask, what is solar forecasting? So if you would like to.
Well, that was, you know, a more poetic way of expressing it, you know. So it's not a manual for reading solar return.
That would be boring.
It just sounds more fancy, I guess. So it's a book on predicting with solar returns, or we should say annual revolutions, because we have the perfections and solar returns, and both are based on the solar year.
So it's a form of forecasting, of yearly forecasting.
Yearly, and also monthly, because we also then go into the monthly predictions, how to see when the theme that's indicated by solar return, or by the yearly theme, so to speak, the most important thing in the year, when it is more likely to manifest, in which month of the native's year, so from one birthday to the next.
So it's looking at what is in the birth chart, what is indicated in the birth chart, when does it manifest. So it's always in how do you say this? You use it together with your birth chart, not as a standalone chart.
Yes, always, because the birth chart is the root. If it's not indicated there, then even if the solar return shows it, it's not going to happen.
Got it. And would you like to tell us something about the core techniques you are using in the book that also could explain a bit for whom the book is, because this is not a beginner's book. So if you don't know about astrology, but you are interested in the subject, this could be a difficult read if you don't know the core techniques of traditional Hellenistic astrology.
Well, the book is aimed at astrologers who have some experience, but the main requirement is that one is familiar with the four basic principles. So the meanings of the planets, the meanings of signs, houses, and aspects. So this is the requirement. Otherwise, I think it can be learned very fast. I at least hope that I explained at the beginning, you know, the important principles as clearly as I could in that,
you did.
You know, short amount of pages.
And it was a good overview, even for someone who has studied traditional Hellenistic astrology. It's nice to have the core principles, you know, in a few pages, just as an overview, and to remind yourself, okay, these are the core principles. And you know, it's nice to have this, not a lengthy 500 pages book about all the techniques, just, you know, the overview. It was nice to have this in the beginning.
So this is, I think that most astrologers would benefit from it, or could read it just fine. Even I would say a more open-minded astrologers who otherwise use Indian astrology, because what I wanted to do is to create a system that's based, well, not say the system, it's not actually anything new. It's just like putting together ideas or concepts that can be found everywhere, that are universally accepted. So the perfections have been universally accepted in most traditions, even in Indian traditions. You know, there are mentioned in the famous Brihad Parashara Hora Shastra, which has become in the modern times like the Bible of Indian astrology. And they are also sometimes even exclusively used in the Nadi astrology, which is more practiced in the South India. So they just use perfections without any other timing technique whatsoever.
Yeah, it's a basic Time Lord technique, and it's just advancing the ascendant mainly one sign a year or one month.
Sign a year. Yes. And it's also very natural because it's based on the signs, and the signs are solar months. So one cycle of 12 solar months equals 1 year, and it's like a clock. You know, when you have the hour and minute pointers. So the minute pointer goes one circle around, and then the hour pointer points to the next hour. So this is why we say in perfections that one sign equals 1 year, because this one sign equals a cycle of 12 signs, 12 solar months, and we just move it one sign every year. It's actually natural, astronomical.
Yeah, it is.
It's
and
not
it's easy
as
to learn.
symbolical as we would think, you know, just okay, we equate one sign with 1 year, but it actually has astronomical basis.
Yeah, it's very logical, and it is widely used and easy to get into, to find your the Lord of the Year, you know, the significator. And your book is all about finding the significators indicating the events in that solar year.
Yes,
that comes very clearly through. And sometimes people tend to want to have a set of techniques and factors they can look in every chart, and that they would always predict the same event, but that's not true. In your book, it comes very clearly through that it's about finding the candidates, the significators for that event. And this is because every chart is unique. You cannot have the same significator for every same event. It's just not possible.
Yes. We always have the natural significators, you know, Venus will always be related to marriage, you know, but we also have the seventh Lord or the third Lord or the ninth Lord.
This can be any planet,
you know,
Saturn, Mars.
Yeah, and then also you really need to choose which one of them is going to do it, is going to manifest it. So I also explain this simple way of how to select the significator in the solar return.
Yeah, and this is one point where I got some insight, because you found in your research that sometimes a benefic can indicate challenging events in the native's life.
Yeah.
Also, sometimes we would say that, oh, there is a benefic and it's at least mitigating things, or there should be only happy things happening during that year, but it's actually not. And you have seen that sometimes when a benefic rules unfortunate houses in aversion to the ascendant, shadowy, dark places, that this could be the case, that the benefic is indicating that challenge in this year.
Definitely. I mean, a good example for this would be, and I know that this has been quite neglected, unfortunately, in the West. In India, they're more conscious of this. I think, you know, that even Venus and Jupiter, they can kill you, but they will kill you in a pleasant way. And so if you have, if there is Venus in the 12th, you know, maybe the person is going to get drunk to death, or, you know, or do an overdose or something, you know, because they want to pleasure themselves, but they go into excess, you know. So yeah, the benefics are not always, you know, just bringing good things that also end up positively, you know.
Yeah, this was an interesting thing to see. And also what I liked in your book is the idea behind the forecasting, and why would you do this, and what's the mechanic behind it. And you said that the planets in the solar return act like agents that carry out the mission outlined by the sun. That was so beautifully said. And I had some insight about the sun planets conjunctions. You know, we sometimes say that if a planet is combust, it's a bad thing and it doesn't function. So maybe you want to tell us something about your findings.
This is something that I've been struggling with for years, because I've seen, you know, combust planets in charts of successful people, you know, and that very planet was the planet that was showing what the success was about. So it made me doubt, you know. But then in the solar returns, when I was studying these cases, I saw that many times the main significator, a very important planet for that theme, is combust or retrograde. And sometimes in the case of Venus or Mercury, even both at the same time. So that made me think, okay, let's think about it in philosophical terms. So if the sun represents consciousness, it's our sight, our experience of reality. So if a planet is consumed by the sun, who is also the king of the solar return, that could mean that the significations of that planet are being consumed by the consciousness. So that really gets imprinted into the consciousness. The native will really be conscious of that thing, even though from the observational perspective, that planet is not seen at that time. It's behind the sun's rays. But if we take the perspective that the native is the sun, then it's different, you know.
Yeah, I like that very much, because it tells us that, like you said, the sun is consciousness, and pure consciousness is sometimes hard to understand. Who can grasp pure consciousness, you know? And the other planets, they are more closer to Earth in a way, and more earthy-like. And I think of them more like transmitters, like channels, you know. Being away through consciousness is filtered, and it totally makes sense that a planet close to the sun would be able to be the first-hand messenger of the sun, of the pure consciousness. Yeah, this was the philosophical thought behind it. It's nice to have this also, that when you are looking at a solar return chart, that remind yourself, what are you doing? What is it telling you about? It's not just, you know, I'm telling you what is going to happen, but the philosophical background, why astrology is working in the first place. You know, it's a question we always ask.
Yeah, that was actually the question that drove me, you know, to test all these different charts and methods, because I could say that I'm an astrology skeptic, you know, still. So I just wanted to see, okay, if it's possible to time, because at the beginning I was against predictions. You know, I thought, you know, I started out more like in psychological astrology. So who cares about predicting events? You know, let's just get a good insight into the psyche of the person. But the nature of humans, as I could see, was that my clients wanted to know. And mostly they wanted to know, when are they going to meet their, you know, new partner, or get married, or will they be able to have children and stuff like that. So that's more concrete, you know, these are more concrete manifestations. So I thought, okay, if I'm here to do astrology, obviously, you know, God wants me to be able to do this, to be able to serve these people who are eager to have these answers. And I also saw that when I was in trouble, I also didn't care, if an astrologer or a tarot reader would give me some psychological explanations. I just wanted to know, okay, will this end? And well, will it end,
Yeah. This is a good point, what is the use of predicting? And as you said, someone who is in trouble, you are not interested in the psychological, you already know what are,
maybe a little bit,
situation
just to know what's behind it. But really, you just want to know, when is it going to end? Will I survive this? When you get really hammered.
Yeah, and this is one point predicting, or actually astrology in general, can do for you with Time Lords, that you it reflects your experience. So you actually get the understanding that you're not all crazy, that what you're experiencing is true. It's reflected in the chart. It's not that you are lazy or that you are just a bad person, that you're experiencing this deep dark valley, but it's just reflected in your time cycles. And you also see that there is an end at some point. So it helps you, even if it's like 2, 3 or longer, it's some years and then it will end. There will be better times.
It can be, to some degree, it can be healing,
Yeah.
But me as an astrologer, sometimes it's, and this is why I'm also careful with clients, and I'm actually, at one point in the book, I wrote a warning, for the illnesses and accidents. Should we really predict this stuff? So it's more like, okay, we can learn from this, but use your judgment.
Absolutely.
when to predict something like this. But as an astrologer, it can be, when I saw, for example, Saturn approaching my ascendant, and the times were already difficult, I thought, oh my God, in 2 weeks this is going to escalate. So in one way I was prepared for it, which was a good thing. I knew that I should just go into the mode of letting go, just not holding on to things. But at the same time, it was scary, because I already knew, okay, it's going to be even worse. And now when Saturn turned retrograde, I also, a few months ago, when I was looking, I say, okay, again, another retrograde phase for Saturn. Ooh, this is going to be intense again. And now I'm here and it's intense again,
Yeah. This is an important point, actually, because sometimes people will speak against forecasting and especially predicting. But it's good to know that your book is written by someone who has very hard experiences themselves. So it's not just a technical book. It's written by someone who went through different phases in their lives that have been difficult and very challenging.
I mean, I could say it was written in hell, because it was, I was in my toughest period in my life when I started to write it. And it was, actually, I started writing it, I could say, for myself, because I wanted to know more about my own timeline, and when can I expect this internal struggle to resolve. So that's why I wanted to, test the Time Lords and see.
Yeah, and this is what many people will ask for, to get help. And it's nice to be able to help clients to see the actual phase and quality of time they are currently experiencing, and then also looking forward to when it's going to change, and to see what are your strengths, resources during that dark period, where can they concentrate on? And, also, like you said, you were able to prepare a bit. I mean, you cannot change the quality of time, but you can prepare for what is coming. So it doesn't come out of the blue. And only by knowing that this phase is difficult, it helps sometimes to accept. And actually always accepting is the first step to going or to healing.
Yeah. And also it helps by knowing, if you know the symbolism of Saturn, and the sign it's transiting through, for example, and the house, then it's also easier to go into the healing process because you know what you're dealing with. It's not just the sensation that you're experiencing, and the suffering, but it's easier to know what's behind it, what's the lesson to be learned. Yes. What is that needs to be looked at in a more realistic way, and so on.
Yeah, it's not only about seeing what happens, but also thinking of why is it happening, and also to building that relationship to the divine. That's actually, for me, it's the basic, it's the foundation of astrology, actually, for me practicing astrology, to help the client to have this relationship with the divine, and to see that everything what is happening for a reason, even the darker periods in our life. So but still you have to have techniques to see and to it can be hard to write a book like this, because some people they want to only have the psychological, and the love and light aspect of astrology. So.
And it can be done, what's in the book, it can be used in a psychological way, but we cannot learn predictive techniques with psychology, because that's a subjective realm. We need objective events if we want to test if a timing method works or doesn't. So here we just have, like marriages, childbirth, illnesses, accidents, milestones, turning points, and stuff like that. Objective events, so we can see, okay, it's working or it doesn't work. But and also the traditional astrology is exoteric in that sense, it's dealing with externally manifested events. But if we know how to predict the external stuff, it's that much easier to predict the internal processes, that they're going to unfold.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the discussion with the client is always important, seeing what happens, seeing the quality of time is one thing, but then having the discussion, and that's the point where our ethics, and like you said, the warning was on place in your book to have a reminder that you should think about what you are telling your client and how you are telling the things and what kinds of words you use, and not just ending the consultation and then your client is like, okay, I'm seeing that I will have health issues or something. What should I do? Or some clients, I think if you are someone who goes to an astrologer and you want to know something about your future, then it's good to think about what are you doing with this information? Why do you want to have this information, and what are you going to do with it?
I know of one case where one astrologer said to one woman, "Oh, your husband is cheating on you." And she was just like, in distress because of it. And it just created a mess, So what was the use of this kind of prediction? So it's we should, as astrologers, we should be very, very careful and mindful about our words. They need to be timely, and especially this kind of difficult predictions. For example, for illness, you can speak about this if the client asks, in my opinion. If they ask, if they already have some health issues, and then if they ask you about it, and then if you see a potential surgery or something, it's good to give a warning, so now it's time to take care of your health. Otherwise, Mars is going to cut,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and keeping that sense of responsibility, or being responsible for your own choices for the client is important. And some people will seek an astrologer only to get some kind of confirmation for what they want to be told, or what they want to be true in their lives. So that's also some downfall probably in consultation work.
That's the most difficult part, I would say. And I've experienced it countless times. You know, people just trying to extract from you what they want to hear, you know.
Yeah. Whatever else you are saying, they hear that one word.
Yeah. And then they get frustrated when you keep coming back to, you know, what's really there, what they need to pay attention to, you know, what's their shortcoming in the whole thing, especially when it comes to, you know, like marriage stuff, compatibility stuff. And, you know, I've had so many cases when they were just basically decided that their marriage is marked with an X, it's over, and they just wanted me to confirm it, and I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to give them, you know, some tools, you know, if you want to do something about it, this is what you can do. And it was just frustration because I didn't say it. Okay, just end it all.
Yeah, this is a good point about how our psyche works. So yeah, and also the task and the role of an astrologer to be some kind of messenger, you know, but not taking sides or not letting your own idealism or ideologies or belief systems coming through.
Absolutely true. And I also believe that as astrologers, you know, as people, we mature, you know. And I think it takes time, you know, that also as persons, we develop a mind open enough to not be biased in our readings, you know, in some or other way.
Yeah, important. Then, well, now we talked about why would we do predictions and what's the use of it, which is very important to keep in mind when you read the book and when you do client sessions. Now, some people, when they think about solar returns, there are so many different factors that can be taken into account. For example, do you use sidereal or tropical zodiacs? Do you relocate? Do you, you know, all kinds of this? Do you want to touch on this a bit?
Yeah. Well, I use the tropical zodiac because this was the first thing that I wanted to get out of the way, you know, this question, which zodiac to use.
That's the first question.
Yeah.
Mostly.
And I actually solved it, I would say, through philosophy more than through, you know, going into the historical debate, you know, well, which zodiac was first and blah, blah, blah. So for me, and I will not say this, that this is the absolute truth now, that only the tropical zodiac is valid, but I can work with the tropical zodiac. I cannot work with the sidereal zodiac. Maybe because the tropical zodiac is based on the sun, on the solar year, and I have 4 planets in Leo, and the sun was always very dear to me, you know. And this is it. I just work with the sun. So for me, tropical zodiac. This is the simple answer. And then we have, what was it? Precessed solar return?
Yeah, relocated and precessed.
Relocated. No, I don't relocate it because the root chart, that's the basis for all the solar returns, has its place of birth. And that's the place for all the solar returns, in my opinion. Because the root chart holds all the solar returns in one's life. All the solar returns are already there. If you change the location, that's not the case anymore.
Right.
Precession, well, no. If we would use the sidereal zodiac, then maybe yes. But if we use the tropical zodiac, it doesn't make any sense to precess the solar return.
So yeah, your research was done on the tropical zodiac, no relocation and not precessed. So
correct.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. then, well, we touched a bit on what kind of process it was for you to write the book. Do you want to tell us anything else? What was it like? This is your first book, actually.
Yeah, it's my first book.
Yeah,
I didn't think it. I never thought it's going to be a book. I thought it's going to be an article or two.
Okay. Yeah, it's a long article.
Yeah, a long article, right?
Yeah.
And maybe if I would just stick with the theoretical part, it could be a series of articles. But then I decided to really focus on the practical application. So more than half of the book is just examples and how to work with the technique. So it's 20 examples and I think altogether 42 charts or something like that. Let me check. Yeah,
there are quite
42.
many examples, and I went through all of them, and it was nice to be able to follow. And you highlighted also the most important factors.
Yeah.
So it's easy to read.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's
nice. More like a workbook or something. So yeah, then just I quickly saw, okay, this is going to be a book, and I also needed a project like that that helped me stay focused during the difficult time. And I decided to write at least 1 hour a day. So I gave myself a challenge, and I just was sticking to it.
How long did it take?
Actively, it was about half a year.
Okay.
Yeah, but from the beginning to the published date, it was about a year, because I had at the beginning when I wrote the first chapters, I had a pause, and then again a little bit of writing and a pause, and then I decided, okay, I'll just write for 1 hour every day, because I also saw that when the pause is too big, I already fell out of the writing flow, and it was difficult to get into it again.
Absolutely, yeah. But now it's published. It was published in April, I think, this year, 2022. Yeah. So it's a new book still. And I have seen online that people are very excited about the book.
Yeah, so, it was received.
Yeah, like myself, well. I like to hear that when you told me that you're writing a book, I was very interested in, because I have been struggling with solar returns, because if you do it the traditional way, according to Valens, perfecting from everything in the chart.
Yeah, and also, he takes a different ascendant.
Yeah,
he takes the lunar return in the month when the sun is in the sign of the return.
Yeah.
So he doesn't take the actual ascendant, so it's different.
Yeah. Yeah, and too many factors. You don't get it straight. The information, it's too much, and that was what I liked in your book. It's a much clearer and concise concept, walking you through the solar returns and through that whole technique. And you already mentioned that you had this new technique discovered relating to Time Lords. Do you want to tell us something about it? Do you want to reveal it?
Yeah, sure, why not? I mean, there were two innovations in the book, one which is mine and one which I found from Pakistani astrologer Muhammad Imran. Every perfection cycle is the same. We have the same signs, but life doesn't repeat exactly in 12-year cycles. It's not that the cycles are just copying, and the themes and the events are unfolding in the same way. So usually we address this problem with solar returns and transits. And of course, the solar returns will not repeat the same in every 12 years. But I wanted to have a more like a snapshot technique that would enable me quickly to differentiate from the different 12-year cycles. And first I was expanding the perfections up, one level up, So the first sign, the sign of the ascendant, was there for 12 years. So 12-year cycle was under the rulership of the sun, and then the year, and then the month, you know. And I found it working okay, and I would still use it at times. But then I saw this idea from Muhammad Imran. He said, okay, let's assign one of each planet to the 12-year cycle. So the first cycle is ruled by the moon, the second 12-year cycle by Mercury, the third by Venus, the fourth by Sun, and so on up to Saturn. So in the ascending Chaldean order. And I tried that, and he also said, and we should also perfect the cycle ruler. So he calls this planet a cycle ruler. And it's an important planet during that time. So this is like a natural Time Lord, because it roughly corresponds to the development of human life, which I'm also explaining in the book. It is interesting that most people actually marry in the third cycle, which is ruled by Venus.
Interesting.
So this was one thing, and I find it working really, really well. And I've been using these cycle rulers throughout the book in all the examples. And another one was the Time Lord technique that I named Trails of the Stars, because it's based on the distance of a planet from its domicile. And this is the basic idea I got from Jaimini's system of Indian astrology, when he assigns the rulership of years based on this distance, you know, how far away the Lord of the sign is from the sign, that many years this sign rules, or the period of this sign lasts. And then Valens, I think in chapter 3, if I remember correctly, also has a similar system when he counts the distance from the sign, but instead of saying, okay, this many years the planet rules, he says that the planet gets activated at that year, you know. So if the planet is 4 signs away from the domicile, it gets activated, you know, at age 4, 8, and so on. And I wanted to have an additional Time Lord to be used in conjunction with the solar returns and perfections. It's still based on this principle: 1 sign equals 1 year, but that's more individualized, and it's not fixed to the 12-year cycles. And the idea was also to utilize the difference between the signs. You know, we have nocturnal and diurnal signs. It's something that's not used very much, actually, although we know we have masculine, feminine signs, you know, the diurnal and nocturnal. And since sect is so important in classical astrology, whether you're born during the day or the night, I said, okay, I want to have a Time Lord system that's based on the sect. And then usually we take, if we're born during the day, we take the sun as what I call the initiator that starts it all, or by night the moon, but there are exceptions to this rule, which I also explain in the book. So then we look at the distances. For example, for Mars, we would count from Aries if it's the day chart, and from Scorpio if it's the night chart. So we look at the distance, how many signs, that many years the Mars will rule. And this is why I called it Trails of the Stars, because a planet is living its trail from its domicile.
Yeah, I like that that idea, and also that it's based on sect, this very important concept in Hellenistic astrology. And that technique, I looked at my own Time Lords through that technique. I still have to figure out a few things there, but it looks very interesting to have this additional Time Lord that is not only for 1 year, but for several years, based on the sect in your chart. It looks interesting.
Yeah,
so
I would say this is like, I consider it a public beta, you know.
Yeah,
because it's a new thing, and I've also seen that it also works very interestingly if we do it from both the sun and the moon together.
Yeah, both lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is something we all should research a bit more and have some discussion maybe, and look how our results.
I will be happy for any feedback about this technique, and if someone develops it further, it would be great.
Yeah, so this is one part of the innovation in your book, and I like to see that, and maybe we see more of these kinds of innovations in the future. So coming back to the techniques, so we also we already talked about perfections. You use sect, and then you had also lots, dodecatemoria, 12 parts, and you also use derivative places in your book. It's also something some people have been using these days again. So it's something that has been used widely in the tradition back then.
It's important to do it, you know, because otherwise we just have this one layer of information. And in India, they constantly do this, you know. They look at, for example, 7 from Venus and so on. And yeah, I used it quite, not too much. I think if we do it too much, we will start to chase our own tail, you know, around the chart. But we should know when to do it, you know. If we get, you know, some indications by the primary placements, for example, okay, there's something pointing towards marriage, then we can also look at, you know, like places from Venus, for example, and so on.
Yeah, and also to get the confirmation, you said, like the traditional astrologers said, that if you see something with 2 or 3 techniques, the more techniques confirming it say that actually this event is going to happen. So this is one technique which can help you confirm things. And also sometimes things in the chart do not tell something about your own life, but about the life of your spouse, for example. So with derivative places, you can see that. Yeah. Of all the techniques you have been using with solar returns, which technique is the most concise or the most important or mind-opening to you? Is there anyone?
Yeah, the most important would be the Time Lord of that time. So the Year Lord and the Cycle Ruler. So paying attention to these 2 planets in the solar return is very important. If they are combust, then their significations will be very important. If they are retrograde, also very important. Or if they are at angles. So I noticed that these 3 conditions give some prominence to the planet in the solar return: combustion, retrograde, or at angles, especially, you know, ascendant and the midheaven.
Yeah, this is also one concept, angularity. Oh, nice to have this conclusion. Now, people are probably very interested to know where do they get your book?
My book is available on Amazon. It's available as paperback and Kindle version. Okay,
that's great. And I know there have been 2 examples in the book that had a little error.
Errors, in the hard
copy.
Has been, that was like, I mean, the book went through proofreading, you know, and I read it like countless times, you know, so you just don't see this stuff, I guess. And then when I got the printed version, which for some reason I was not able to obtain before the book was published, because Amazon had some technical issues. And then when I got it, I was reading it, and I was like, oh my God, what is this? You know, it was a technical error, you know, two of them actually. And I was like, oh my God, this cannot be true, you know. And then, of course, I corrected it. I couldn't understand, you know, how could I do such an error, you know, because this is something so basic. And then now all the ebooks were updated. Amazon has sent the readers an updated version.
Okay.
And I created a PDFs with corrections for the paperback book. So those who ordered the book before May, they can just contact me and I will send them the PDF.
Okay, yeah. So
with the corrections, yeah.
Yeah, the ebook is okay, no errors anymore. If you buy the ebook, you have the corrected version.
Yeah, and the paperback book is also, you know, now has the corrections.
Okay, so it's only people who have been very, you know, just waiting to get the book and being the first ones.
Yeah, unfortunately, you know.
But it's no problem. Just contact you via your website and you get the PDF. And actually, there are only 2 errors, I think.
Yeah,
and it's 2
the
pages.
errors are in the monthly perfections, you know.
Yeah. It's
somehow,
it's thing.
Yeah, somehow I counted the months from the ascendant itself, not from the perfected sign, you know, which was like when I read it, it was like, oh my God, what is this, you know? What? How can I do it?
Yeah, and this also tells us how important it is to have something in your hand, you know, and it's so different to look at, to read from the screen.
Yeah, because I was looking at the screen, you know, over and over again, and I just didn't notice the same mistake, you know, even if I read it countless times. So when I got it in a printed version, you know, the focus was different, and I just noticed, you know, and also some typographical errors, which I also corrected, and were still there, you know.
Yeah.
So now I think the book is in the final version. I don't think I'm going to correct anything anymore. It's pretty much done.
Great. So I will take all your information, the Amazon link, and also your email address, I think, and your webpage. I will put it in the description box so people can check this out and contact you.
I just want to add another thing that on my webpage, which is rokkoritnikastrologer.com, I have on my blog, I have this PDF with all the charts from the book, so the readers can print those charts and work with the pair of compasses for calculating lots, which I also advise to do at the beginning of the book. It's a different experience having the printed chart, using a pair of compasses, and it's really fun to find the lots in that way. And also it's easier to read because there's a chart is printed in the book, and then you flip the pages and you have to keep coming back to that first page. So it's not such a smooth reading experience, you know. It's better to just have them printed, and it's just better.
Yeah, going back to the basics, you know, doing stuff with your hand, using tools. And when you speak about lots, I found something in your book I want to read. It's so important to remind ourselves why we cast lots and or why we look at lots in the chart. So you said that in terms of geometry, the lot is a balancing point because it brings the 3 points, 2 planets and the ascendant, into equilibrium. That's one of the insights you give us in your book.
Yeah, I don't remember when I think I found this from Charles Aubert, if I remember correctly, in his book on the lots. Probably, yes. It's been a while ago, but it was a revelation for me. Yeah, wow. I mean, because, you know, the Greeks, they really thought in terms of geometry.
Yeah.
So here we have 2 planets and the ascendant, and then when we take the distance from one planet to the other and cast it from the ascendant, we get this trapezoid, symmetrical, you know. So the fourth is the balancing point that brings the 3 points into equilibrium, but also creates this four-pointed geometrical form. And we, from geometry, we can think about it in terms of space, because only when we have four sides, you know, we have polar opposites. We have up, down, left, and right.
True.
So this is where manifestation takes place. It's in the square.
Yeah, number 4 in numerology.
Yeah, the triangle is still the potential. But when we have the square, up, down, left, right, or the cube, you know, front, back, here it's where we have space and the polarities, which make the manifested world possible.
Yeah, our reality.
Yeah, and this is why the lots are the points of concrete manifestation. You know, we have the lots for the father, mother, marriage, child, and so on. So they are just that, you know, because when a house is many things, you know, the fifth house is many things, not just children.
True.
But the lot of children is only that, it's children.
Yeah, it's specific.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice to see how it works out in the charts you have in your book.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this was the most important discovery for me, how the lots actually work.
Yeah, and you use them in the birth chart and also in the solar return chart, you calculate them. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things in your book, and I'm so excited about it. It's concise, but it has so many things in it, so much insight. And of course, if you go through the book, you get your own downloads or something like this, you know. So I really recommend your book for everyone who is interested in forecasting in general, and also in the philosophy behind it, to think about why are you doing what you are doing. But now, what are your future projects?
Oh, my future projects. Should I reveal them or not? Well, first, I'm planning to do courses in Slovenian language, so for local astrologers. Then possibly, hopefully, also webinars in English, you know, based on the content of the book. Then I have this thing in the pipeline, how should I call them? Consultation boards. You know, because from my experience, it's really nice to work without a computer, you know. So I wanted to create this consultation board.
That's a wooden,
a wooden board when you have a chart drawn and you place like stones or something like that, you know, for planets. So this is a project I'm working on that will hopefully manifest sometime in the autumn. Yeah, that's pretty much it. And then I have one bigger project in the pipeline, which I will not reveal.
Okay, some secret.
Yeah. But all in its time.
Okay, yeah, I'm excited for this. And are you giving consultations?
Of course, yes.
And the information is on your website.
It's on my website. And I'm also giving private tutoring sessions.
Okay. How much are you on social media if someone wants to connect through social media?
It's not the best. Okay. Maybe I will even leave it.
Okay.
At some point. So just best to contact me through my website, or now it's also okay to contact me through Facebook, from my Facebook page. It's still there, but I'm not sure for how long. Okay.
So best thing is to contact you through your website.
Yes.
And what was it again?
Rok Koritnik astrologer.com. So all together, rokkoritnikastrologer.com.
Okay. Thank you. Is there anything else you want to have us to know?
No, I don't think so.
I am thanking you so much for being here. And before I'm stopping this recording, I want you to read the little prayer you have in your book right on the first page, because it wraps beautifully up and it's nice to have this as a reminder to all of us.
So this, right?
Yeah, exactly. This one. So
yeah. Well, it goes like this. May the self-illumined sun, the light of the world, give us the vision of one in many and timeless in time.
So it be.
Yeah, so it be. So this is, I think that at the end, astrology should take us to this, you know. It's the science of time, but we should also recognize the timeless in time, you know, the spirit that's going through its journey through time, you know.
Yeah, going back to the source.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rok. This was so insightful.
Thank you, Sindy.
With you, and I hope to have you on my channel soon, maybe with some revealing secrets.
Okay.
Let's see. I wish you all the best for your projects, and hope to see you again.
Sure. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.